from the scariest places to visit in the United States. Spring break. For most, it's sunburns and bad decisions. But for the unlucky few, it's a detour into places that shouldn't exist. Tonight, 3 stories that'll make you triple-check your GPS. Hollowbrook, Nevada. A ghost town with a gas station, a diner rotting under a flickering open sign, and the Starlight Motel. The clerk handed me a brass key without a word. Room 13. "Don't answer the door after midnight," he rasped. I laughed. Until 3 a.m. when I heard 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Through the peephole, I saw a family standing there. Pale as bone, the little girl pointed at me, her mouth stretching into a grin that split her face. "We saw you," she mouthed. I slammed the door. At dawn, the clerk was gone. The guest book lay open on the counter. Names stopped in 1987. The last entry, mine, dated yesterday. I fled, tires screeching, but not before glancing back at the motel. Through the window, I saw the girl in the same nightgown and the same ghastly grin. That night, back home, I heard 3 knocks down the hallway. Always at 3 a.m., always 3. No. 2, the abandoned town of Gadsby, Saskatchewan. A century ago, this sleepy farming town was a hive of activity. Today, it's a chilling time capsule. I wandered through the rusted remains of a hospital, the stench of antiseptic clinging to the air. In the pharmacy, I found a dusty bottle filled with pills. Outside, the weather-beaten sign creaked in the wind. "Beware of dog," it warned. Where? The canine epidemic hit Gadsby hard. Even the cemetery was not spared. Here, a small headstone read, "In loving memory of Fido, 1928-1938. Beneath it, the earth was disturbed. Recently, perhaps a dog or a coyote. Then I heard it, the sound of heavy paws on the wooden porch behind me. I turned to see a massive dog, a Doberman Pinscher, its eyes glowing like embers in the dusk. It growled, baring its teeth. I stumbled back, knocking over a rusty tractor. The dog lunged. I don't remember running, just the pounding of my heart and the sound of the dog's heavy breathing behind me. Finally, I reached the safety of my car and slammed the door. But as I drove away, I glanced back at the town. And in the gathering darkness, I could have sworn I saw the Doberman standing on the porch, watching me go. Number 1. Burkittsville, Maryland. Legend has it that this town was built on an ancient burial ground, and those who settle here are cursed to die within a year. Skeptical, I decided to test the theory. I moved to Burkittsville, Maryland, and bought the cheapest house I could find. Within weeks, the townsfolk warned me, "You're gonna die here. You can feel it in your bones." And indeed, as the old house settled around me, I felt an oppressive sadness, a numbing dread. Then the nightmares began. Every night I dreamed of a faceless man in a top hat who beckoned to me from a foggy abyss. One night, I dreamt of him standing in the very room where I sat. I awoke with a start. The room was empty, but outside the wind had shifted, and through the window I saw the man in the top hat walking away. I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. "Leave this town," a voice whispered in my ear. "Save yourself." I didn't need telling twice. I packed my things and left Burkittsville. Behind me, safe at last, I turned to watch the sun rise over the town. And in that moment, I understood. The curse wasn't about dying in the town, it was about living it. Silent Pines, Arizona. I stopped at this town because I got a flat tire, and I swear the universe was trying to send me a message because right after I fixed my tire, my GPS crapped out. And then, as I drove down the same stretch of highway, the same mile marker over and over again, it said, "Hell is full." So when I finally reached Silent Pines and saw that sign, it made sense. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw headlights. But when I looked over, there was a semi with no driver gaining on me fast. I had to get out of the way. So I swerved onto a dirt road where I ended up an hour later at a diner. The neon buzzed above me saying, "Open 25 hours." I walked in and the coffee smelled like burnt hair. The waitress handed me a menu, and on the wall were photos of all the missing travelers who never made it out of town, including my face. I was smiling in the photo. It was nice. She gave me a receipt that said, "Your table's reserved. Come back soon." I ran to my car. In the rearview mirror, I saw the diner burn to ash and something waving from the wreckage. It was tall and skinny with all limbs. Now, every time I drive past that mile marker, I see those headlights getting closer and closer. Have you ever seen anything like that on the road? Let me know in the comments below if you have a story to share. And make sure to stay tuned because I'm just getting started. We're going to start off this story from a user who wishes to remain anonymous. They were on a road trip out west when their car broke down in an abandoned town called Blackwater, Utah. It's not even on any map. All that's there is a church with a collapsed steeple and a graveyard. And every single headstone was blank. So they took one photo, just one photo, and then they got the heck out of there. They developed the film that night, and there was a figure in the photo standing behind them. All you could see was a ragged coat and no face. Just a mouth full of glass. And then weird things started happening. Their locks jammed and the lights flickered. But it was the footsteps they heard that really freaked them out. Footsteps outside the car, inside the car, and even in the walls. Then, last week, they found a Polaroid on their porch. The picture was of the same graveyard, but there was a new headstone with their name carved on it, freshly carved. Apparently, these towns don't let go. Our next story is from a user named Lena. She and her friends were on a road trip when they decided to take a detour through an abandoned town called Hollowbrook. They didn't know the town wasn't on any maps, and the locals had all but forgotten its existence. As they drove through, Lena noticed an old Victorian house with peeling paint and boarded-up windows. But what really caught her eye was the rusty swing set out front. As they approached, a black Labrador suddenly appeared and began running alongside the car. When Lena looked back, she saw a woman in a long black coat staring at them from the porch. She beckoned with a finger for Lena to come closer. But when Lena stopped the car, the woman disappeared. As they drove off, the dog led them to an antique store filled with dusty furniture and old photographs. One of the photos was of a little girl who looked oddly familiar. As they continued their journey, the abandoned towns began to feel less like a detour and more like a premonition. Lena kept seeing the little girl from the photograph everywhere she went. And the closer she looked, the more she realized the girl was actually her doppelganger. When she finally confronted her doppelganger, the girl told her she was destined to be alone forever, just like her. Then, the doppelganger vanished, leaving Lena to wonder if she was losing her mind or if there was something more sinister at play. If you ever see a sign for Hollowbrook, burn it.